Princess Celestia the Changeling Queen, Chapter 17, Part 3.
I've always liked the rapier, although it's not an offensive weapon,
Stated Celestia as she raised her weapon to salute Lamia. The Changeling Queen did likewise and let her rapier fall to on guard position.
But the rapier is a weapon, so therefore it should be offensive, right?
Asked Lamia, swinging her weapon casually. In contrast, Celestia remained completely motionless, her body held in perfect posture.
Oh, the rapier is a weapon, but you do not win fights with it offensively,
said Alternia mischievously. Lamia and Sindra both frowned at the same time, and Alternia had a moment to reflect on the similarities between the sisters.
Really?
Questioned Lamia. She stepped forward closer to Celestia, her rapier outstretched, and then she hopped back. Again she stepped forward and back, testing her opponent's range, yet the alicorn didn't move. Sindra felt an uneasy feeling in her gut as Lamia prodded and poked Celestia's boundaries. There was something dangerous about the alicorn despite the fact that she hadn't even done anything. It was like the alicorn had suddenly become a tiger ready to pounce. Her elder sister seemed to have felt the same thing as well, because the confident smile on Lamia's face had been replaced with a nervous grimace. Out of nowhere, Sindra felt the urge to flee from Celestia as her sister took another step forward and Sindra screamed.
Lamia, wait!
Lamia's eyes widened as Celestia's rapier shot forward like a flash of lightning. To her alarm, the queen realized that she couldn't step back as she had just shifted her weight onto her forward hoof. In the nick of time, Lamia raised her rapier to parry the lunge, but that was only the first of Celestia's attacks. Alternia used her superior magic control and balance to launch a continuous series of strikes at Lamia's legs, forcing the Changeling Queen to move, which is not easy when you only have 3 legs. Trotting forward, perfectly balanced on her hooves, the disguised Changeling Queen pressed onward, not giving Lamia a chance to stop. Yet although Lamia was constantly retreating and looking as if she was going to stumble at any moment, she maintained her balance.
You have excellent defensive skills as well as high coordination. Keep it up,
said Alternia, as her rapier blurred in a rapid figure-8 maneuver. Lamia couldn't reply. All her concentration was focused on placing her hooves carefully, a task becoming increasingly difficult as Celestia sped up her attack. Parry low, parry high, that's a feint. Place your hooves, shift your weight, riposte, thought Lamia as she backed away hastily. Sweat had quickly formed on her brow and the queen almost slipped, but sheer determination allowed herself to maintain her balance. Oddly enough, while the princess's flurry of stabs came at an ever-increasing rate, Lamia found herself being able to adjust to the attacks. The Changeling Queen sidestepped another lunge and finally managed to launch her first counterstrike, but it was gracefully deflected by a tap of Celestia's weapon. The Changeling Queen in disguise allowed herself to smirk as her sister's daughter sprang back, disengaging from the fight but almost toppling over in the process. Still, Alternia was impressed by her sister's daughter. Lamia was nowhere near as good as some of the fencing masters that Alternia had fought, but the younger queen was quickly learning to give ground and defend, despite her disability. All according to plan.
Princess Celestia, why aren't you going all out?
Panted Lamia. The Changeling Queen couldn't understand how she was surviving against an alicorn with more than 1,000 years of combat experience. For some reason, Celestia was holding back from her. To Lamia's aggravation, Celestia chuckled.
A fencing duel is in its most basic nature a puzzle. Your opponent being the puzzle and victory being the final result of solving that puzzle. So, I'm afraid I can't answer your question. It would deprive you of the fun.
Lamia grimaced.
Alright then, I guess I'll have to take drastic measures. Cinderhooves, would you mind if you helped me? You were sent to obey my orders within reason,
said Lamia sweetly. The Changeling wasn't sure if the Pegasus would actually fight her own ruler, but it was worth a try. Cinderhooves was a good duelist, and right now the Changeling needed all the help that she could get. Sindra jumped. She wasn't expecting this and had to bite back her initial instinct to shout.
Yes, sister. If it is alright with your highness?
Asked Sindra, quite unable to hide the eagerness in her voice. Celestia nodded and Lamia blinked, surprised, but to Sindra's relief, she didn't seem to suspect anything odd. Strangely though, the alicorn smile only seemed to widen as Sindra fastened her fencing helmet and rapier.
Try to get an angle on her, I'll keep the pressure,
said Lamia, grateful to have the Pegasus's help. She didn't know why Sindra was helping her, but she supposed the Pegasus was obeying orders. Lamia also guessed that Sindra was eager to have a chance to fence against Celestia.
I'm slightly wounded that my own personal maid would fight me,
said Alternia jokingly, sizing up her sister's 2 daughters. Admittedly, she was slightly apprehensive about fighting the pair, but Sindra had been a dear, and far more likable than she'd anticipated. As for Lamia, Alternia admired the younger Changeling Queen's level-headed mind and her courage, yet she would not mind fencing with these 2 changelings.
It's an honor to duel you, your highness,
said Cinderhooves, saluting. Lamia also saluted, and Alternia followed suit. Before either Lamia or Sindra could move, Alternia charged forward. She wanted to see how her sister's daughters would counter this. Horn shimmering, Lamia met the alicorn's lunge with a rapid parry and quickly blocked Celestia's second strike to her chest. Out of the corner of her eye, Lamia grinned as she saw Cinderhooves cut back and flank Alternia from the right, her rapier scything towards Celestia's neck. Syndra was thrusting her hoof forward, sure of her strike, but to her surprise, Celestia's weapon was there to meet in a clash of tempered steel. The Alicorn counterattacked, stabbing at Syndra's weapon arm, but the Changeling managed to parry it and return to the favor. Rapiers dancing back and forth, the two continued to exchange parries and lunges, but Syndra was obviously losing. Celestia's rapier was like a conductor's baton, dictating the pace and tempo of the fight. Luckily, Syndra noticed her sister's lunge at Celestia, rapier held forward like a lance. The Alicorn's response was surprising, her wings flapping almost like she was hovering and her hoof tips just scraping the ground. Celestia danced around Lamia, attacking the Changeling Queen while using her as a shield. The movement was so rapid and so coordinated that Syndra suddenly found herself fighting thin air. The 2-on-1 duel rapidly descended into a contest of maneuver and encirclement. Alternia would press Lamia back with a flurry of rapid stabs and cuts, and Syndra would attack the Changeling in disguise, which prompted Alternia to circle around Syndra and away from Lamia. When Lamia ran in to relieve her partner, Celestia danced past Lamia and away from Syndra. The sight was not like two cats trying to catch a very elusive mouse. Suddenly, Celestia fluidly disengaged, batting Syndra's rapier wide. The Changeling tried to recover her balance, but Celestia's massive wings flapped hard, throwing a gust of air that tossed Syndra into her sister. Lamia yelped as Syndra hooves collided with her, and the two fell, head over heels, limbs all at a tangle.
Sorry, my blade work is still a bit weak,
groaned the maid ruefully, helping the Changeling up.
That's alright, I wasn't mobile enough,
said Lamia with a sigh, as she pulled off her helmet. Ever since she had lost her leg, she couldn't really fight like she used to. She simply couldn't move as fast. In fact, it had been a miracle that she had survived so long in the duel against Celestia without falling once. Lamia blinked, frowned, and stared at Celestia questioningly. That didn't make any sense. How could she not have fallen even once? After all, she still had trouble turning around on 3 hooves. As Lamia observed the Alicorn, she noticed Celestia's smile was widening.
Wait, Princess, were you trying to teach us?
Gasped Lamia. Syndra's eyes widened at the same time as she realized what had happened. Alternia grinned, her eyes dancing with glee. 1,000 years ago, Alternia would have never even thought of approaching Chrysalis's daughters with civility. Yet she had taught her sister's daughters despite that. She herself wasn't sure why, perhaps it was in a strangely good mood after the more successful negotiations. Or maybe it was due to the sharing that she had with her sister last night. Pity for Lamia's injuries and Syndra's helpless position could have been a factor as well. But no matter what the original reason was, Alternia certainly wasn't regretting it, especially with the looks of astonishment and awe in the two changelings' eyes.
Yes, I was. Lamia, I forced you to move instinctively to help you practice your mobility. You were putting too much thought into placing your hooves when your conscious mind still thought you had 4 left. That forced you to forget everything but stay upright and away from my blade to force you to adapt.
Alternia then turned to Syndra.
For cinder hooves, my circling strategy allowed me opportunities to test your defenses while giving you opportunities to attack. That way, you'd be able to practice your blade work in both areas.
Syndra and Lamia regarded the Alicorn for long moments, aware that they were staring, but unable to understand Celestia's actions. Lamia couldn't quite understand why Celestia would teach Chrysalis's daughter to fight. The princess's somewhat manipulative method was not unexpected to Lamia. Her mother had warned her that Celestia was a chess master, but the informative and friendly manner that Celestia had conducted the impromptu lesson was a shock to Lamia. If her elder sister was confused, Syndra was boggled. Celestia had knowingly addressed her and her sister's weaknesses. Not only that, but she had forced them to confront their weaknesses, but she had done so in the most fun and informative way possible. It had been a long time since Syndra was this tired, but at the same time, she felt ecstatic that she was able to help her sister, even though she was behind her disguise.
Thank you, Princess,
spoke Syndra and Lamia at the same time. The two stopped and glanced at each other, grinning sheepishly, much to Alternia's amusement. The Changeling knew that someday Syndra would have to tell Lamia and Chrysalis, but for now, this moment, Alternia was glad to give the two sisters a chance to spend some time together. Things shaping up nicely on all fronts, oh, who could ask for more? Anywho, let's get on to our very lovable donators. Top donators Peter Coulthard, J Tinman, Darkside, Gauntlet, and Only One Thing. TacoCat598, Zar630, Strix, Raiden, Narwhals, Black Moonheart, Drake Lovedragon, Pastel Skies, Austin Rowland, GrazyKiller557, Stu Hex, Will, James Burner, Dospo, Delta Omega, Jack Cadge, RuneScythe9852, Madman Stan, Leslie Perkett, Hunter Norman, Stephen Bingham, LineGuide12, and many more skilled people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.